I want you to remember this quote. Only when the gain is greater than the pain will you push through your fears and make change happen and make it stick. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been in so much pain in your life that you felt compelled to change your life for the better forever? And you took the action to make it happen? Well, that's what I did. Multiple times, I reinvented myself to become my best self, to become the future version of me. And I did this despite having an anxiety condition. These days, I help asexuals with love, life, confidence, dating, and relationships so they can truly ace their life. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that is a lack of sexual attraction. And what this means for me is I don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse, but I still get attracted to guys romantically and aesthetically. In 2015, I launched my Asexualise, My Asexual Life YouTube channel, which has since gone on to have over 500,000 views, over 230,000 views and counting. I've been featured on the Jeremy Vine Show, on BBC Radio with Graham Torrington, in FemMedic, in The Mirror and Daily Star newspapers, and on a variety of podcasts. But it wasn't always like this. I had my first heterosexual boyfriend at 6 years old. I thought I was heterosexual, and I was a depressed mess with no purpose. From the age of 10, I was very lonely, left out, lost in life. I didn't have any friends to talk to in school. The only comfort was a bar on the wall that I used to talk to. I was really fed up with my life, and I wanted my life to be over. I just wanted it to end. I was bullied in primary school, and that continued throughout most of secondary school. Secondary school was really tough, and I just felt like I didn't fit in. I knew I was different, and I was suicidal. At 15, I was in a really difficult relationship with a guy who tried to have sex with me against my will. He showed me a condom in his drawer, and I just said, that's nice. I didn't think anything of it because I'd never thought about sex. It had never crossed my mind. Back in school, I just thought I'd like to kiss guys, hold their hand, that type of thing, be romantic with them, but sex never crossed my mind. And then he showed me the condom, and I just thought, that's a nice for him. It's a nice object. So I said, that's nice, not thinking he was going to use it on me. Well, he didn't even try to use it on me. He tried to have sex without that, against my will. And one particular day after that incident, I was with him and his brother and girlfriend and their kid, and I went to Haytor Rocks, and I was that fed up with my life. I felt that lonely and depressed, and clearly the guy didn't love me. He didn't care about me. And at that point in my life, I lacked self-love. I'd been in depression for years, and I really didn't like my life or myself. So when I was walking up Haytor, halfway up, I decided to let myself go, let my feet go from underneath me. And I wanted to end it. That's it. I just wanted to let go. I didn't want to be in life anymore. But this guy grabbed hold of my leg and saved me. And that same year, when I was 15 years old, I had my first work experience at a radio station. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I felt like I did fit in radio, and I just knew there and then intuitively that I was born to be in the media somehow. And I was born for a really special purpose, and it was to do with the media, but I still didn't know exactly what that was. So I pursued a career in radio at that time. And I did hospital radio, and I was a hospital radio presenter for years, and I learned lots of skills, speaking skills, tonality, all this type of thing. And I really enjoyed doing that. But in 2009, I was made redundant in my job, which I really did enjoy. And I blamed myself, even though the host store was closing. So that was kind of weird because the hostel was closing. The department I ran never was existence anymore. And so therefore there was no job for me to go to. There was no premises for me to go to, but I still blame myself anyway. But I saw that as an opportunity to change my life for the better. And all of a sudden, I just knew there and then I was actually born to write. That was 100% my life purpose. And so that's when I got the inspiration to write my first ever published book, which is called Break Through the Barriers of Redundancy to Get Back into Work, an A to Z how-to guide. That took me 2.5 years to write that book, but I did a really good job. I've been in management for years, and so I understood both the recruitment process and the management side of recruiting others. So I put that ebook out on Amazon, and just getting that first sale made all the difference, knowing I can make some money online and knowing that people enjoy my work, enjoy my written work. And writing is a part of my soul. These days I cannot be without it. If I do, then my soul just dies inside. So we fast forward now to 2011, and I'm so scared to be on social media. The previous year in 2010, I had an official diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder. But I'd had this disorder, I believe, probably since being a child. I was actually a distressed baby in the womb, so I was born into trauma. So it makes sense that I would continue that trauma throughout my life. And with the other traumas I've had on top of that, it just compounds it. Now, if you don't know much about pre-birth trauma, then you'll know from the research that I've done that it's hardwired into your DNA, or this is what the experts say, which means it can't be changed. But I'll never say never. And I've overcome so many fears to get where I am today. So in 2011, I was so scared to be on social media, but I knew that I had to be on there if I wanted to be in the media. I wasn't on Facebook, and I was talking to a work colleague at the time saying how scared I was. But I knew that if I wanted to progress my career and be in the media, which I found out at 15 was my life purpose in some way, then I needed to be on social media. So I took this guy's advice. He was my supervisor at the time, and I went for it in 2012. April 2012, I created my first Facebook account, my only Facebook actual profile. And I put it on public really bravely. I thought, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it full on out. So it went on public. And it's been on public nearly ever since. I had a few trolls at one point. So yeah, I put it on private. But other than that, it's been on public the whole time. So this was a huge leap forward for me. And in 2012, I was diagnosed with an unseen disability called fibromyalgia. Now, fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscles of the body. And to be diagnosed with that was just horrendous, in the sense that I had to come to terms with the fact that I've got a disability for life. I had to accept that about me. And that is pretty shocking. I get pain in my neck, pain in my back, pain in my thighs, pain in the insides of my thighs. My legs are the worst affected area. But I refused medication for it. And I devised and developed a way to use the power of my mind to block out the majority of the pain. And I used that experience later on to write a book. But first, it took me 6 months to come to the terms with the fact that I have a disability for life. And in around July 2012, it was just like that. I stopped being depressed because I realized that if I continued to talk negatively to myself, that I would end up on crutches or in a wheelchair like so many other with the fibromyalgia condition. I realized that the more you said negative stuff to yourself, the more emotional pain that creates, which manifests itself in physical pain in the body. And so I had to reduce that mental pain, that emotional pain, and stop talking negatively to myself. So after 6 months of coming to terms with this disability, I stopped talking negatively to myself. I stopped being depressed. And it was fibromyalgia that freed me from depression. It was my asset. It was my ally. A pain condition had stopped my worst pain of depression in my life. And it truly saved my life. And over the years, I developed ways of managing it, of lowering the pain and having more energy so I can be happier, like a superhero rock star. And I published a book in 2019 that teaches other people how to be the superhero of their own life and reduce their pain in up to 25 aspects of their life, most of which apply even if you don't have fibromyalgia. So go and get a copy of that. Don't forget. So 2012, I found out I got fibromyalgia, but something else that year changed my life, which was completely incredible. I went to a success resource event, and that was in London. And for the first time in my life, I saw Tony Robbins live on stage. The guy is absolutely amazing. He did change my life for the better forever. You see, I had stopped talking negatively to myself. I'd stopped being depressed, but I still didn't like myself that much. I thought I was okay, and I still didn't love myself. So when I went to this business seminar, I went thinking I was pretty worthless to actually feeling and seeing my worth. Because with all these people at the business seminar, I realized about all the skills and special qualities and experiences I've had in my past that I can use to help others. And when Tony was on stage, he got us to do something I'd never done before. Up until that point, it was very touch adverse. And he got us to go around hugging strangers. So I hugged this guy who was both big in body mass, and he was big as in tall as well, bald, with a piece of flyaway hair over his head. He wasn't particularly attractive at all, not my type. But I went up to him and I put my arms around him, and I thought, if I can hug this guy, I can hug absolutely anyone. And that was the start of me going around hugging other people and actually being able to be in physical contact with people. Prior to that, I'd only been able to be in physical contact in that way with a past boyfriend and my parents to say goodbye to them. I didn't even like to be touched on the shoulder. So this was a huge leap forward. It took me a while to be able to hug other people. I didn't just be comfortable with hugging everyone overnight, but now I can hug strangers if that's what they want. There was once a person outside my home that had been in an accident, and her friend was with her, and her friend wasn't hugging her. And I just said to her, complete stranger, do you want a hug? And she said, yes, please. I gave her this hug, and it was so comforting for her. So I've really changed myself like that. And Tony Robbins was the start of that. And also when I saw Tony Robbins, he taught us to change our state through movement and music. And so he got us to jump up and down and rah, rah, rah. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. And then it reminded me the jolt I needed of the young girl I was always born to be, and that I needed to stop living this life that society expected me to be. So I stopped doing housework for a guy. So if a guy ever comes to my home, it's like, you can cook and clean and do stuff for yourself. I'm not doing that anymore because it hurts me with my fibromyalgia, right? And I want to live the life of my dreams with the least amount of pain as possible. Even standing up doing washing up hurts me. So I do the least of that as possible. I buy paper plates and tinfoil trays to just chuck away. And, with Tony Robbins, I began to see the young version, the teenager Sandra that I was always born to be. And that was the catalyst for me changing and reprogramming my mind. When I went to the coaching academy, I did weekend life coaching course. I saw a guy in there called Andrew Jenkins, and he taught us how to change our mind through neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And so I reprogrammed my mind to be like I was in my 20s. I was 23 at one point, and I've been 21 for the last few years, since 2017. So my mindset is a 21st-year-old mindset, and I live like a teenager on purpose, and I absolutely love it. My happiness has gone up, my creativity's gone up, My whole persona is shining now because I'm who I'm born to be. Age is just an illusion a lot of the time. So I have a birth certificate age and I have my soul real age to me. I don't relate to my birth certificate age. It's just a piece of paper to me. But I'm so glad I was born. So I'm here to help others. So in 2014, I went to see a counsellor because I was upset that I wanted a relationship, but I liked romance and kissing and I didn't like sex. And so I sat down and I told it this and explained it, and I thought I was going to be alone forever. And I just felt I couldn't date anymore because the expectation of sex at the end of the night of a date made me almost wet myself. It got that bad. But I wasn't expecting what she said to me. She said to me, Sandra, I'm worried about you because you're going to have sex in order to keep a good guy. I was horrified. To me, that's like giving a guy a license to rape me. It's absolute disgusting. So I went home and Googled, I love kissing, but not sex. And then it came up with asexuality.org, which is the biggest online forum for asexuals. So I went on there and I couldn't believe it. There was people like me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one in the world, planet, and universe that didn't want, like, or need sex. And then I see there's tons of other people like me who want romance and kissing, but no sex. And I'm like, wow, there's thousands of them all around the globe, pretty much hidden, because they live in fear of ridicule, of what people might say, that you're not natural, that you're broken, that you just haven't found the right person yet, and all the other things they throw at you when they first discover you're asexual. But I knew that I'd found my people, and I knew that there were other people like me, and it was such a relief. I was so happy to be there. That led on to the next year, in January 2015, to me holding my first asexual meetup. Now, I have to say, up until that point, I was scared to be in groups. I hadn't liked being in groups. When I was at college, I couldn't really be in groups. I could only be one-to-one with someone. I was 1 to 2 guys at one point playing pool. That was the most I could handle. But usually I was only interested in meeting up one-to-one. I found groups really hard. I felt lonely, left out. To me, it was horrible being in groups. So I had a lot of social anxiety, and I overcame that social anxiety finally by organizing and holding asexual meetups. See, on asexuality.org, there was people who were talking about having a meetup, but no one was doing anything about it. So I stepped in and said, why don't we actually meet up and define the time with 2 other girls? And we met up outside my work and went for Nando's together. And it was absolutely incredible to be able to talk to 2 people in person that are asexual. Just solidified my asexual identity. And so it was just incredible. And I was so thankful for that experience. Fast forward to October 2015, and that's when I launched my Asexualise, my Asexual live show. Now, up until that point, I'd been really scared to talk about sex in public. I'd only talked about it with an ex-boyfriend, not even any girlfriend. I was really shy. I thought that's a really private matter, and I wasn't up for talking about that in public up until that point. But I thought, if I'm going to do this show and help asexuals, I need to be able to talk about sex, because it's going to crop up. Even if asexuals have a lack of sex, they're still going to want to talk about sex in some way, even if they don't like it. So it's going to crop up. And I'm an asexual that has had sex in the past. So I thought I need to talk about that in order to help others. And the way I got around that was pushing through my fears, pushing through my personal barriers, pushing through the shyness and the embarrassment, and realizing that I could take that information to the grave with me, or I could tell it to the world and help some people. So that's what I decided to do. I started talking about sex and I started talking about masturbation, and I was so scared and shy and red with blushing. I remember that. It was so difficult for me, but I did it. And the more I did it, the more I got used to it. And the more I can talk about it now, like it's drinking water. It doesn't affect me, well, not that much anymore, right? I didn't even try masturbation until I found out I'm asexual, actually. I thought it was disgusting. Now I'm just like, if I want to do that, it's fine. It's self-love, right? So my journey has been absolutely incredible. And in 2017, I published my first book for asexuals called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. This was to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum, our differences within it, and to answer pretty much every and all questions that a new person had asked me. When I say new person, a person who was new to asexuality had asked me. I used to get private messaged all the time about the same questions. Can asexuals masturbate? Do asexuals watch porn? Do they do BDSM? All this type of thing. So I just took all those questions and I asked myself, and I asked 46 other asexuals, plus things about like, what do asexuals think of marriage and kids? And can a sexual and asexual be together? This type of thing. How did they find out they're asexual? The benefits of asexual. I put it all in this book so that a person could just grab the book and they could find out what the asexuality spectrum was like in practice, rather than just reading textbook definitions of it. And that went on to be a bestseller. In fact, it was bestseller this year in 2023, even though I published it in 2017. So never give up on your dreams. And I published it under my own publishing imprint of Quirky Books, which was my dream since 2017, to have my own book publishing imprint. I started my quirkybooks.wordpress.com blog in 2010, and 7 years later, I finally had the book publishing business of Quirky Books legally registered in the UK. So copies of my books are in the British Library and another number of other libraries in the UK. So I was just ecstatic for this, right? And so my journey has been absolutely incredible. I was a speaker at the UK Asexual conference in 2018. I launched Asexualise Academy, which is the world's first online training centre and school for asexuals and asexuality. Asexualise Academy Club was a club I set up, small coaching club. And I've been featured on other podcasts now, like Lifeology, with over 3 million listeners. And it just gets better and better. And here I am talking to you, despite the fact I still have generalized anxiety disorder, and I had to push through my fears and barriers to be able to come here. So I'm currently reinventing myself as we speak. So we look at the reinventions I've had. I went from being shy and introverted to pushing myself to be extroverted, loud, bubbly, energetic, which started when I did hospital radio. I became more extroverted when I went to secondary school, because I realized back in primary school that being introverted was really hurting me and upsetting me. But it wasn't until I decided to do hospital radio and pursue a media career that I changed myself fully to be extroverted, to be loud, bubbly, talkative. I went from being shy about touching people and shy about talking about sex and not being able to like talk about these type of things, to being able to talk about my previous sex life all over the internet. I went from being scared to be on social media to being literally all over Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, now X, and on so many different podcasts. I'm all over social media. I run 6 asexual groups, multiple business pages on Facebook, and lots of social media accounts. So completely overcome that. And I've overcome social anxiety over the years because I was able to go out in groups. I run groups, I manage groups, and I also attend other people's meetups now as well. So I'm not even asexual. I went from being shy an introvert, to be able to go up to guys in clubs, and when they approach me for kissing, I just snog on the dance floor. I don't care what people think, because I live my 21st year life. I go to theme parks, zoos, and aquariums. I truly live like I'm 21 years old. I have that mindset. I have that belief. Years ago, I was like an old soul in a younger body. Now I'm like a young soul in an older birth certificate age. And so you can achieve your dreams. So how did I make these changes? Number one is I became aware of the problem, of what was actually going on. I asked myself, like, what is the problem? When I was introverted, it's like, how can I improve my life? How can I change this? And so I found out the problem was that I need to be extrovert, because being introverted was making me lonely, miserable, depressed, unhappy, suicidal. It was no good for me. It was a horrible life. So I changed that. So I became aware of the problem. I needed to be an extrovert. And then I was solution focused. So I'm like, okay, what are the characteristics of an extrovert? And let's reverse engineer that, reverse engineer the steps it will take to get me to be those characteristics. So I wasn't modeling someone else, I was modeling the characteristics. So this means I need to be more outgoing, which meant go out more, interact with people more, be more loud, which meant talking more, expressing myself more, speaking on a louder tone, which radio teaches you to do anyway, teaches you to go up 2 octaves. So it's very good training for that. Bubbly and energetic instead of being withdrawn and into myself. So I developed a bubbly persona, which I felt really comfortable with. So I was criticized years ago for not being very caricature. Now I'm very expressive. So I was able to express myself. And I did this through being solution focused, reverse engineering this process, and setting intentional goals to become that thing, and then actioning those goals. So going out, raising my voice more, projecting it more, smiling more, meeting different types of people, approaching people in groups rather than sitting back waiting for people to talk to me, going up to people, engaging in conversation, talking about them, because people love talking about themselves, right? So I did all this and I completely changed my life. But you've got to have personal qualities to do this as well, such as determination to succeed. You've got to focus on the end goal and not let anyone distract you. And if someone distracts you, you keep focusing on that solution and the steps that you've reversed that you're taking now towards that goal. You need to then continue along that path and recognize previous evidence of when you succeeded before, so that you know that you can succeed again. Be resourceful and keep pushing forward, and don't let anyone stop you achieving your dreams. Make change happen for you rather than it happen to you, and your life becomes magical. And this is when you become the superhero of your own life, to save yourself from pain, and you make things happen for you. This is magical, wonderful, and it leads to true success and happiness for life. Thank you.